Have you ever wondered why sometimes you have the perfect tactic but then your players are behaving in a different way than what your tactic actually tells them to do? Well, it could be that those players have a particular player trait that makes them behave in a certain way. Now, these player traits could be the difference between winning and losing. So in this video, we're going to look at how you can take advantage of player traits and make them work for you. So think of player traits as a habit a player tends to do over and over again. Some habits are good, some habits are not so good. So let's use Mo Salah for example at Liverpool. So we know that Mo Salah likes to run down the right flank and cut inside with his left foot and then take a shot at goal. But did you also know that Mo Salah is a fairly selfish player? He prefers to shoot the ball rather than pass it even when his teammate is in a slightly better position to actually score the goal. So there are some player traits that are beneficial to the team and there are some player traits that are not so beneficial. Now some players have player traits on Football Manager and other players do not have them, but in order to find out who has player traits, all you have to do is head over to Football Manager and go over to your squad, and in your squad tab you're just going to pick a player at random. I'm just going to say João Veloso for example. You can see in the bottom right corner of his player attribute screen, you can actually see that he goes on to have some player traits that help him behave in a certain way. So he will tend to try killer balls, he's going to try long passes, and he's also going to try to switch the ball to wide area. Now these are all traits that are suitable for players that have good passing. So some player traits are good for players that have certain attributes. João Veloso now for example has passing ability of 17, vision of 18, so all these player traits are quite suitable for him. There are some players that have player traits that might not be very good for them. A good example will be Fresnel Landu from DR Congo. He is also an inside forward in my team, but if you look at his player attributes, he has technique 18, but he has free kick ability 11. So for some reason his player trait says that he likes to try long range free kicks. He's good with technique, that may help out. He's good with passing, that may help, but his free kick ability isn't so great. So it may not be a trait that you might want him to have. I could switch that to create another trait that could involve passing. And the good thing about Football Manager is that you can actually go ahead and train a player to learn a new player trait, or you can go ahead and tell a player to unlearn a particular player traits that he's doing that may not be helping his game or the team as a whole. So how do you know which player traits are good for a player or which player traits are not so good? Well, we already looked at it briefly with João Veloso and Fresnel Landu, or you can go ahead and check out the player attributes. For players that have good passing ability, let's look at Warren Zaïre-Emery here for example. He is very good at passing and he has vision 19. You can already see some player traits that says tries killer balls often and also plays 1-2s. He already has like 5 player traits, and the thing about Football Manager is that you can't learn in. If a player has up to 5 player traits, you may not be able to teach him another. Well, hold on, I could be wrong about that, so let's just try this. Warren Zaïre-Emery now is a player that has good passing and good vision. So in case I want to ask him to dictate the tempo of the game, I can go ahead to a development tab here, and then under training, just go ahead and select training. And under training, you want to see at the bottom right just where you found the traits in his player attributes. You can find where you can learn the new trait over there. So you can see discuss new traits. It's going to ask one of your coaches to actually do this. So I'm going to use the tactical, and then that's Jose Fonte. I'm going to choose between movement, passing, finishing, defending, and technique. So what I'm looking for is a passing training habit. So I'm just going to go ahead and select passing. And under passing, we can see all the possible player traits that Warren Zaïre-Emery can learn, which he hasn't already learned. So I'm going to look for the dictate tempo. So you can see it here. I would like to start coaching Warren Zaïre-Emery to dictate the tempo of the game that we play. So I go ahead and select that option. Jose Fonte goes on to agree that that's going to be a good training for somebody like Warren Zaïre-Emery. So go ahead and end the chat, and then you can see that he's already there practicing how to dictate tempo of our game. Another way to actually view player traits is from a tactical perspective. For this, I like to train players to play in a certain way that suits my style of play. So I have Rasmus Højlund here at Atletico Madrid, and he is my center forward, but he likes to run down the left flank, and I don't know why he's running down the left flank. So what if I wanted Rasmus Højlund to stop running down the left flank? I'm just going to go over to development and then head over to training. And then you can see discuss new player trait, and over to new player trait. I'm going to find a coach, one of the coaches to be honest, and then ask them. This is a movement training now. So I can head over to movement, and then you can see the first suggestion is already saying I would like to start coaching Rasmus Højlund to stop dribbling down the left flank. That is something that I want as well. So I can go ahead and just say that. You can see I agree. It makes no sense for my striker to be running down the left flank. So I go ahead and then say end that conversation. And we can see that the bar turns red. So Rasmus Højlund is currently training to not dribble down the left flank anymore. Now, player traits are not only for attackers and midfielders, they're also for defenders as well. If you have a defender that has very good marking attributes and concentration, someone like Borhan Bakupi now, he is my Atletico Madrid centre back. He's one of the younger players as well. And apparently the younger the player is, the better or the faster they can actually go ahead and develop player traits. So you can go ahead and train this guy. His passing is not so great, but his vision is good. But right now he has no player traits. He has very good marking, so I want him to learn how to mark opponents tightly. So I can head over to development tab and head over to training, and then go ahead and discuss a new player traits. And over there, I can ask my defending coach to say, look for a defensive training. So he's going to learn a new defensive habit, and then ask him to start coaching him to mark opponents tightly. So go ahead and do that, and you can see he says his suitable traits is a suitable trait for him to actually learn and add to his game. Sometimes the assistant manager or the coach is not going to accept this training. He's going to tell you that it's not very good for the player based on his player attributes. So you don't really need to cram which attributes or which trait is good for which player attributes. The coach is actually going to tell you. So we're just going to do one more player trait to actually tie everything together. I have a goalkeeper here in Anatoly Trubin, and if you look at Trubin's attributes, he has eccentricity of 3. And I believe that the lower the eccentricity, the less likely the goalkeeper is going to be to do things that are out of the box. Like Ederson at Man City could just go ahead and start a counter-attack. That's because he has very high eccentricity. But looking at Anatoly Trubin, he has only an eccentricity value of 3. But I want him to start counter-attacks with that long throw. If you look at his throwing is only 13. His kicking as well, he's 13. So he's the kind of goalkeeper that may not want to do what I want him to do right now. So we're going to go ahead to the development tab, and under training, we're going to ask the coaches as a goalkeeping coach to say, I want my goalkeeper to start doing something, despite his attributes not saying that he's going to be able to do it. So let's see what the coach is going to say. The only suggestion here is showing that he wants Trubin to not use his weaker foot anymore. All other training sessions are not even available for me to select. So I'm going to try a different goalkeeper. I have another Argentina goalkeeper here. His name is Thomas Ramirez, and he has only eccentricity of 2. So if I head over to development and say training, I go ahead and discuss new traits. He currently has no player traits assigned, by the way. So over to goalkeeping, I'm going to say technique first and try, okay, just to avoid using weaker foot. So I'm going to actually try the passing trait now. Maybe that's a passing trait and not a technique trait. So over to passing, and passing we can see, would you like to start Thomas on starting counter attacks with long throws? So let's go ahead and try that. You can see the coach goes on to say it doesn't seem to match what he likes to do because his player attributes don't show that he can actually do that. The good thing about this is that you can force your coach to actually go ahead with the training even though it shows that his player attributes cannot do it. You can say I trust your opinions, or you can say I have much greater experience than you, go ahead and do the training. So he's going to start working on the players training, but he's not sure if the training is going to be a success. Since we know now that it's a passing training, let's go back to Anatoly Trubin and see if it's worth learning that particular trait. So head over to development and training. We're going to discuss a new training, and then ever passing training right away, start using counter-attacks or start creating counter-attacks with that long throw. Head over and do that, and you can see the coach already said this is a poor idea. It suits a player that has very good throwing ability, which is not one of Anatoly Trubin's particular strengths. You can go ahead and ask the coach to suggest something for you. You can use the suggest option here. He's going to say in that case, he's not thinking of any suitable trait